still think it's strange to assume someone was working together with him. The way the graduation rule works, there is no benefit to helping someone else carry out a murder.
Yep.
The idea that anyone would work together like that is simply ludicrous. We talked about this, did we not?
Mm-hmm. Did we talk about how there wouldn't be any reason for anyone to work together? At least that's what we thought first, but... Okay.
Based on the rules that have been laid out for us, even if more than one person is complicit in the murder, only the one who actually carried out the act can graduate and survive. Assuming the rule holds true, it is simply impossible that two people work together on this.
That is how the rule was explained to us.
Mm-hmm.
Only really applies if there's one murder, right? In this case, however, there were two murders.
Here. I got you now.
Based on the rules that have been laid out for us, even if more than one person is complicit,
Let's do this.
only the one who actually carried out the act can graduate and survive. Assuming the rule holds true, it is...
Objection. Break.
Since there were two murders, it's at least plausible that more than one person was involved.
What do you mean?
If there'd only been one murder, then yes, the idea of an accomplice isn't really worth considering. Naturally, if only one person can be saved per murder, an accomplice has no risk versus reward benefit.
Risk versus reward benefit?
Man, you're dumb.
Payoff for working together. The reward that balances out the risk of taking part in a scheme. There's no point in being someone's accomplice if there's no benefit to you.
Yep.
If there were some potential mutual reward for the risk, then cooperation becomes possible.
You're saying that two people could act as each other's accomplices to commit two separate murders.
Yep.
I think that's what the true killer told Hifumi. They would each have an accomplice for their crime. And based on the case's events, Hifumi would have been the first one to act, murdering Taka. They made him carry out the first murder so he couldn't back out of helping them later on.
So in this case, there wasn't one single person committing multiple murders.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, each person killed someone, creating two separate incidents.
True.
And it only looked like one person because that's how the true killer designed it to look.
Yeah.
A single suspicious individual, a similar weapon used in each crime, disappearing bodies. By creating one seamless set of circumstances, they made it look like one person was behind it all.
Yep.
Mastermind picked their target and managed to convince him to go along with their plan. And then, to avoid the no accomplices rule, they simply killed their accomplice.
Yep.
If true, means that betraying Hifumi was part of the plan from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That's just awful! How could anyone be so cruel?
You think so? I can't help but admire its cunning. Still, their choice of accomplice seems odd.
Yeah. Unless it was Celeste, because Hifumi was head over heels. The effort made it convincing two murders were the same. The main characteristic this time. Kyoko must have noticed the fact that they were from the very beginning, which is why she said not to look into the series of connecting events, but entirely separate incidents. Kyoko really is amazing though. When you think about it, she's almost too amazing. Like, it's almost unnatural how good she's at this.
Understand how an accomplice could be involved. But then, who was the one pulling Hifumi's strings?
That's problem numero uno right now!
Yep. The true killer manipulated Hifumi to carry out a number of actions, and in the end murdered him. In the basis up until now, the only way case has unfolded, when you consider all that, there's only one person that could seem to fit. Damn, waifu. You're making me do this too.
Here's my answer.
Got it.
It was Celeste.
It was Celeste.
Ah, so I'm the suspicious individual now, am I? I really do hate this kind of joke.
A joke? I wonder.
Well,
So what you are saying then is that I specifically chose to work together with Hifumi. The
Mhm.
idea that I would choose to spend any amount of time interacting with him, that I would go within 10 feet of that shit for brain fat, lazy, worthless, goddamn idiot!
pardon-moi.
To be clear, there is evidence to support it.
Yep.
Investigation, there was certain behavior that was common only to the two of you.
Yep.
Considering what we've learned so far, it only further proves that the two of you were working together.
Uh-huh. What's that thing?
I got it! The behavior they had in common has to do with the suspicious individual in the suit, doesn't it?
Yep.
The only ones who ever actually saw Robo Justice firsthand were Celeste and Hifumi.
Mm-hmm.
The adults are talking now.
Well, he's so mad.
Sorry.
As he said, only Celeste and Hifumi ever laid eyes on the costumed individual. If we accept that Hifumi was one of the culprits, we can't help but suspect what Celeste has said as well.
Are you saying everything they told us was a lie?
Not sir.
After taking Hifumi to the nurse's office, we all began our search for this individual, correct? And not too long after that, do you remember what Celeste said?
What? I saw a shadow, something moving around the top of the stairs.
We headed to the second floor specifically because of what she claimed to have seen. Next, to draw us all to the physics lab up on the third floor,
She let out a blood-curdling scream.
and when we'd all come to see what was wrong, what was it she said?
Celeste, what's wrong? What a rather intense scream for someone like you. I saw him, the strange costumed man. He ran off as soon as I screamed. I was blocking the stairs, so he headed further down into the hallway and disappeared.
Once she'd done her job of getting us all up to the physics lab, it was time for her partner to get to work.
Huh? What was that? It came from downstairs. It must have been Hifumi. He's in the nurse's office. This is bad. Come on, we have to go back.
It was to get us to divide into two groups. So that we would discover both bodies at the same time?
Yep.
In fact, Celeste was precisely the one who proposed that we split up.
Mm-hmm. Then why don't we split into two groups? I'll lead the hunting party. It seems much more interesting. Very well. Then Makoto and Hina, you can come with me to the nurse's office. I will leave the capture of the suspicious individual to Toko, Byakuya, and Sakura.
Well, if Celeste and Hifumi were working together, all those chance events suddenly become connected.
Yep.
On top of that piercing cry of yours early on. That was to signal Hifumi, wasn't it?
Yep.
Your way of telling him, we're on the third floor. Everything's going according to plan.
Lol.
Why else would you let out a scream that could have carried across the sea?
I just realized another strange thing.
Yep.
When we found Hifumi in the nurse's office, who we now know was only pretending to be dead,
Yep. Certainly. I was not expecting this. I did not imagine that Hifumi would be murdered.
Celeste, you were the first one to say he'd been murdered. You wanted to make sure we wouldn't have any doubt in our minds.
I
don't believe it! Everything! The whole thing was one big act!
Yep.
Hina, you were with Celeste when Hifumi's body disappeared, right?
Yeah? I was sick, then that was...
She wasn't worried about you. She just saw a chance to help Hifumi sneak out of the nurse's office.
Each piece isn't much by itself, but start putting them together and the picture gets very ugly. Celeste,
I have no idea what you mean.
Ah, yes, that is why she's the waifu. Very good.
Don't bother trying to deny it. You made one fatal mistake.
And it was...
Did I?
I didn't even catch it myself when you first said it, but looking back, I can say that that one little slip-up was your undoing.
Oh.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about what you said after Hifumi's body disappeared and we returned to the nurse's office.
They must really be enjoying this. Enjoying the sight of us standing around, frightened and confused. We're all going to die here. We're going to die just like those guys died.
I remember her saying that too, but I don't understand what's so strange about it.
Then pay attention. Sakura, Toko, and I were first to discover Taka's body in the equipment room.
Uh-huh.
Then Makoto showed up and told us Hifumi had been killed. So Sakura and I left with Makoto. Once we were in the hall, we ran into Celeste, and the four of us headed to the nurse's office. Now, the entire time we were together, none of us said anything about Taka being dead. Think about it. Celeste's comment doesn't make sense. It was completely out of place.
Yes.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Although I don't really get what it means.
You hear that, Celeste? Everyone's having some trouble understanding. Could you repeat what you said? If you're really not the culprit, you shouldn't have any problem repeating it, right?
Byakuya said that Celeste's comment didn't make sense, but what is he alluding to? Okay. Let's read what it says first.
All I said was, they must really be enjoying this. Enjoying the sight of us standing around, frightened and confused. They must be positively elated. We are all going to die here. We are going to die, just like those guys died. And that is all I said.
And that's all it takes to finish this. It's obvious, isn't it? What was so strange about Celeste's comment?
Is it the opposite?
All I said was, they must really be enjoying this. Enjoying the sight of us standing around, frightened and confused. They must be. We are going to die. And that is all.
And that's all it takes.
Time for...
Strange about Celeste's comment.
Alright.
All I said, they must really enjoying the sight of us. They must be positive. We are all going to die here. We are going to die. Just like those.
Is it? There you go.
That's right. There's no reason Celeste should have said, just like those guys died. When she said that, none of us had told her Taka was dead.
Yep.
Exactly. And we didn't run into her until after we were all out in the hall.
True.
Any chance for her to have seen his body in the equipment room for herself.
True.
Celeste, how did you know more than one person had been killed? And how did you know they were both guys? Because Kyoko had also disappeared, right? So she could have been dead too.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that's giggle.
You all have such vivid imaginations. You know that?
Imaginations.
You claim that I was lying when I told you about the suspicious person I saw. Then what about the picture I took?
Mm-hmm.
How do you explain this picture of the costumed villain dragging Hifumi away?
Yep. Yeah.
Let's put the suit on. And then she used the camera's timer to...
Have you so quickly forgotten? You are the only one who could have possibly fit into that suit.
Oof.
Plus, I happen to know that this particular camera does not have a timer.
True.
In other words, it is an unassailable fact that this is a picture of Hifumi being dragged away.
Or they just propped the cardboard man there, and then it just made it acted as if he was dragged away.
Everything I told you was a lie. How can this picture exist?
True.
Are we sure that's really a picture of the suspect dragging Hifumi away?
What could you possibly mean by that?
Surely there are other explanations than the one you've offered up.
No, there is no other explanation.
Other explanations? It wasn't a picture of a suspect dragging Fumi away. Fumi is dragging the suspect away?
I got it! It's not a picture of the suspect dragging Hifumi away. I would say it's a picture of Hifumi dragging the suspect away.
Yes.
That's certainly within the realm of possibility. The one being dragged off in that picture isn't Hifumi, but the person in the robot suit. We've simply been led to believe that it's the other way around.
Ah.
And the strange costume might only exist to lead us astray even farther. If you saw someone wearing something like that in this situation, of course you'd notice and be suspicious.
That's what happened! You put me to sleep and made me out to be the bad guy in all this!
Such a thing is utterly impossible.
Oh?
Hifumi was dragging him away? Ridiculous.
Is it? I don't think it's ridiculous at all.
Then shut your mouth and allow me to educate you.
Okay. Celeste thinks she can prove that there's no way Hifumi could drag the subject away. But is that really possible? Alright.
You dressed me up in that suit after I passed out! Then you just draped me across Hifumi and had him carry my weight! You tried to make me look like the bad guy!
Like I said, ridiculous. As you can see in the picture, the suspect is standing perfectly upright.
Is it?
If the person inside the suit was unconscious, there's no way they could stand up straight like that.
No, that's wrong.
Yeah, because it's like super tight and it's like rigid.
No. Even if the person inside the suit were unconscious, they could still stand up like that.
True.
Because that Robo-Justice suit had a certain characteristic.
Mm-hmm. You totally can't bend the waist. Seems like a pretty obvious oversight.
That's right! They totally made a mistake when they made it, so it couldn't bend at the waist.
I'm not so sure that was a mistake. I think the suit was designed from the beginning to be used the way it was.
He.
Celeste and Hifumi took the suit they'd specially designed and stuffed Hiro into it. That's how they were able to fake that whole thing.
Nice. Yes.
Whoever was in the suit was to blame.
Yep. Oh yeah. You do those noises.
Well then, I suppose this is checkmate.
Checkmate?
Don't make me laugh, you idiot! What do you mean, checkmate?
Celeste?
Clearly, you want to cram me into your little guilty box. Well, there's one little problem.
Have you already forgotten what Hifumi told us as he lay dying?
Ah, Hifumi, who was who attacked you? Who tried to kill you? Who killed me? That's right, I remember their name. Yasuhiro.
When we asked him who had attacked him, his answer was quite clear, was it not? He said, and I quote, Yasuhiro.
Yasuhiro Hagakure!
Right! But my name isn't really Yasuhiro! It's actually Taro!
No.
Confusing statements don't make any sense. You're only making things more complicated.
Did say But are we sure he was really pointing the finger at Hiro?
Yeah.
What the hell are you talking about? I'll burn you alive!
I love that anger.
Kyoko, what do you mean by that?
Think back to how Hifumi used to talk to us. How did he refer to each of us?
I got it! That's right! Our last names! He called us all by our last names!
Okay.
I know I heard him say Mr. Naegi more than once, for example.
Oh yeah, Mr. Naegi.
So if Hifumi did mean to say Hiro's name, he would have said his last name, Hagakure.
I'm sure it was just incidental. By chance, his first name. Indecent?
Don't talk.
Well,
Random chance. Now isn't that a convenient explanation? No, there's no reason to think he would have said the name any different than normal. But he must have run out of energy before he could say any more.
So Hifumi was trying to tell us the last name of whoever killed him?
yep.
The name he said doesn't apply to anyone here.
Well, no. Hold on. There's one person it could apply to,
Yep.
and that's Celeste. She never actually told us what her real name is.
Yep.
What did you just say?
Mm-hmm.
You take your false accusations so far, I don't know whether to laugh or spit.
I mean, what?
Come on! Enough with your idiotic blabber. Yasuhiro is a loser's name. Do I look like a loser to you?
Yeah, that's why you change your name and you don't like other people referencing your name, and why you get offended by people asking your name. Therefore, of course you think it's a loser's name, and therefore you don't use it, and therefore you hide it, and therefore no one knows it's your name.
Well, do I? I think I've earned the right to be a little on edge.
Okay, then fill us in. What's your real name?
Fine. Make sure your ear holes are wide open and listen up! My real name is Celestia Ludenberg. Could you please